It's that time of the year again. The leaves are falling, night encroaches upon day a lot earlier, and millennial women break down the door of the local Starbucks for their pumpkin spice latte dopamine hit. Autumn is here, and that also means it's the spooky season. Well, it's always spooky in this place, and eerie, terrifying, a bit Lovecraftian at times, and for some reason, it smells like fries here sometimes. But for all intents and purposes, it's Halloween. A time to decorate your house with plastic skeletons, hold horror movie marathons, and gorge yourself on candy that may or may not have a razor blade hidden in that Reese's milk chocolate peanut butter cup. I think most are familiar with the playfully ghastly holiday on the last day of October. But where did Halloween come from? Well, it came from an ancient Celtic festival which was obviously very different from our current Halloween celebrations, because back then they didn't have spirit Halloween stores or rampant consumerism. Light up your pumpkins, for on this most unholy night we're going to take a deeper look into the festival of Samhain. I know you thought it was pronounced Samhain like it's written or something like that, but apparently it's pronounced Samhain in Irish Gaelic and Samhain in Scottish Gaelic. The more you know, right? Fast disclaimer, I'm probably going to mispronounce stuff here and there, so I'll apologize in advance, because I don't want a bunch of drunk Irish and Scottishmen coming after me. So what encompasses this Samhain/Samhain event, and what is the meaning behind it all? Marking the halfway point between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, it's a harvest festival that hails the coming of darker days. Darker days meaning winter, but also the waning of the barrier that separated our world and the world of the others. Which meant you had all sorts of mythical creatures, ghosts, fairies, and a menagerie of magical creatures spilling out into our reality. Sounds like one hell of a party, right? Well, the ancient Celts didn't think so, mainly because they would cause chaos and unleash mayhem. Again, sounds like a good time, but for a bunch of Celts, having your children abducted by fairies or being killed by a vengeful spirit was not a favorable situation. So in that regard, the Samhain celebration also became a ritual of protection against the unwelcome otherworldly visitors. Big bonfires would be lit as a ward against these wandering wraiths and fae, while serving as a purification for people and animals passing by. People would take embers of these cleansing druidic fires with them to protect their homes. Since metal lanterns were pretty pricey for the average Celt, they turned to the large amount of root vegetables they would have amassed during the harvest season. Hollowed out turnips made great containers for transporting the druids' fire, and eventually people even started cutting faces in the root vegetable to allow light to pass through and scare off anything skulking in the night. Nowadays we know this as the jack-o'-lantern, the carved out pumpkins with a scary grin that are pretty much the symbol of Halloween. The use of pumpkins for this practice was popularized by Irish immigrants settling in North America because pumpkins were larger, softer, and you were just less likely to slice into your fingers compared to trying to carve into a small hard turnip. That said, I still managed to cut myself several times carving a pumpkin, but that's probably a skill issue. So next Halloween, if you want to try making a jack-o'-lantern on hard mode, try carving a turnip. The upside is that these carved turnips are absolute nightmarish visages, certain to give any trick-or-treating kid pause when approaching your door for candy. Speaking of trick-or-treating, both the dressing up in costumes and going door to door for snacks also finds its roots in Samhain. Like most rituals, there were also offerings and sacrifices involved, but along future generations this was toned down to leaving an offering of sweets outside to appease any fey or ghastly entity that would darken your doorstep. And now we hand out candy on Halloween to appease the gluttonous greed of pint-sized demons. I mean kids, hoping this will prevent a hail of eggs raining down on your house. People roaming the streets wearing costumes of characters of the latest mainstream blockbuster fad, or perhaps the timeless classic The Slutty Nurse, is a dumbed down, twisted evolution of a long past time where people would dress up as more darker, ghoulish characters for another reason than simply filling your bag with colorfully wrapped diabetes or getting anonymously wasted. Celts would adopt scary-looking appearances to confuse the terrifying creatures stalking the world of the living during Samhain, and blend in among these outworldly beings. Even popular color schemes like black and orange can find their inspiration from the old Celtic festival. Black being symbolic for the coming of winter with its long nights, and orange referencing the bright glow of the druid fires. So not just ooh black is spooky and orange cause pumpkins. Samhain is a very culturally rich festival with a great significance that got the wrong end of the stick. This short video hardly does it justice, but perhaps we can at least try to somewhat make amends for our overly consumerized bastardization of this ancient Celtic event. Why not go a bit old school for this year's Halloween? Build a huge ass bonfire in your backyard. Maybe carve some horrifying grimacing turnips instead of a pumpkin. Feed some cookies to your local fairy folk instead of the brats down the block. In any case, have a spooky Halloween, folks. Enjoy some scares, have some laughs, and don't choke on your pumpkin spice latte.